Hi everybody, and welcome back to the BandscoreCast channel. My name's Adam Wenzer and I'm your host for this episode and all future episodes of BandscoreCast. So last episode we looked at the argument essay template and structure, and today we're going to be looking at the discussion essay template and structure. So last time we sort of talked about that, the essay writing component is quite challenging, and generally because people haven't had a lot of chance to refine that skill set. So today we're going to go through again step by step, like we did with the previous episode with argument essay, just to talk about what you need to do and what you sort of need to think about when approaching the test. So before we begin, if you like what you see on today's channel, please subscribe and give us a big thumbs up. And the other way you can support the channel is directly via our Patreon page at patreon.com/BandscoreCast, where you can enjoy many benefits, including having access to my full library of work and having the opportunity to submit Task 1 and Task 2 writing pieces to be reviewed by me, and a short little video from me just to say hi and to give you a little bit of feedback. So the other thing we do on every episode is to call out one of our patrons, and today I'd like to call out Stephen Lee. So Stephen, you rock. Thank you very much, mate, for all your support with the channel, over the course of the last few months and beyond that. Mate, hopefully you can join us today and any future episode moving forward. Okay, guys. So today, what are we really talking about? So the discussion essay is another style of essay that you'll be potentially requested to do on the day of your test. So as we mentioned in the last episode, with the IELTS exam, you will be given 2 writing pieces to complete. If you're doing the general test, you'll be given a letter. It could be a formal or informal letter, plus an essay after that, or you can do them in reverse order. The other thing, if you're doing the academic test, you'll be asked to do some type of analysis piece as task 1. It could be a chart, it could be a line graph, it could be a map, after which you'll be asked to also do an essay. And it could be a discussion essay, which is one that we're looking at today. So in terms of the structure of today's class, it's going to be very similar to the one that we did in our last one for argument essay, which I'll put a link at the end of this episode. We're going to be talking about question types. We're going to be talking about brainstorming vocabulary and the importance of that. We're going to be talking about the ideas matrix, and again, the importance of how the vocab flows into the matrix, and then the matrix flows in directly to the essay framework. After which we'll be looking at providing you the full essay live, which I'll do, and then you will have the opportunity to download the essay for free after that and add it to your little collection of assets. All right, so let's go straight across to our document. Here we are. Okay, so the essay we're going to be looking at today is titled, it is a discussion essay. It's got here, some people think that ebooks will be the death of paper books, while others think that paper books will never disappear. So we're talking about traditional books and e-readers and whether one will essentially destroy the other. So interesting question, and I think just always remember too, with the IELTS test, you could literally be asked almost any question. So it's one thing I often say to the guys I teach is it's really important to read across different subject matters. So if you don't know a lot about technology or books, or you could talk about the environment, it could be language, it could be art. You want to start reading across different subject matters and ensuring that you are well read and you can sort of pull in different arguments when you need to. And this is one of those situations where we have to think about, okay, what is the advantage of physical books? What is the advantage of e-readers? Let's start talking about that. All right, so we've got here our discussion essay. We can identify that by the fact that it says discuss at the end. Now, quite a simple thing to see there. The other way a discussion essay could be identified is it could say discuss both views and give your own opinion. It could say discuss the advantages and disadvantages. So this is the type of language that we could use here. So it's discuss both views and give your own opinion, or it could be discuss the advantages and disadvantages. So quite an easy one really to identify. All right, let's start with the vocab. So again, we've got to start thinking about e-readers, e-books, paper books, and what are some interesting words we could list here. First word, internet. Nice and easy. I guess with any e-readers, you're going to be looking at downloading that content from online from the internet. So that's probably a good place to start. Online, again, linking with that idea of being on the internet. Digital, again, online environment. The next one is I've got here is traditional. So looking at traditional books, traditional paperback, traditional hardback books, a pretty good word to use with this essay. The next word we have is pages. Again, one of the things we'll be talking about later is people enjoying turning the pages of a book. And when you think about why do you like reading? I mean, some people like just picking up a book, sitting with it, looking at its content and going, okay, cool, we can sort of turn the pages, we feel the pages, maybe we're more connecting with the book. Okay, the other one I've got here is smell. You might think, what? Why smell? Again, some people really love that smell and feel of books, turning those pages, going from one to the next. The next one we have here is download, because we're going to be talking about downloading audio files, again, from the online environment, from the internet. The next word we have is storage. Looking at e-readers, the advantage of actually being able to store lots of content on your devices, which is a pretty positive thing when you think about you can go on holiday with 10, 20, 30, 100 different book titles, and you'll have access to all those titles when you're on holiday. Okay, the next one we have here is environment. Again, this will be relevant to this essay because the environment is impacted with the production of books. We don't necessarily have the statistics, but in this type of essay, we can really talk to that point without having to give much information in terms of specific detail, and that's okay. If remember, this is a test of your writing skill, so the examiner is not necessarily looking for specific detail. What they're wanting is for you to give broad arguments around this specific topic. The last word we've got here is access. Being able to access pieces online, being able to access digital files, and go from there. Okay, we're now going to take those words and construct our matrix, which you can see here. Now, we're going to use exactly the same matrix in every single essay writing episode that we do. And you'll notice at the bottom here I've got not required, because really with the discussion essay, we're looking at both sides, but we're not requiring the same number of arguments as we do with an argument essay or a twin question essay. Here we're looking at 2 each side plus 1 contrast, and that'll be enough for us to actually write this essay. Let's start. So paper books will never disappear. What's our first argument here? I've got written down here their tactile nature. What that really means is that you can physically interact with them. Again, you can pick them up, you can touch them, you can turn pages, you can feel the paper. Again, it's that tactile nature. You can touch and feel the object. Nature being their tactile form. Again, the ability to hold and to turn those pages. The next one I've got here is no need for a constant power supply. So when you think about it, with ebooks or with other digital gadgets, they often do require power, and some require constant power, consistent power. A book, you can pick it up, take it to the park, sit down in the sun with your sunglasses on and just read it. That's the advantage of a book. It's freely, you can transport it easily, freely, and it doesn't require any power for you to use it, which is why one of the reasons we're arguing that they'll never disappear. The other side here is ebooks will be the death of paper books. So we're saying that, yeah, paper books will basically be destroyed because of the ebook industry. What's some arguments and some ideas around that? So the one I've got here is ease of use. So, them being really easy to use. And then I've got here, you can, research, you can look up titles, you can research titles, you can download them very, very easily, and you can store them on your device. I guess when we think about it, e-readers have really revolutionized this whole reading in general, and being able to purchase books, being able to access books. We can research, download, and store really any time of the day whenever we want to, which is, again, one of the reasons why we're saying that it may well be the end of the paper book industry. Underneath that, I've actually got cost. So looking at like cheaper, and then I've got just listed off that providing global access. So what we're talking about here is, there are people around the world who may never have been able to access certain book titles before, and because of the internet, they're now able to access them. You don't have to go to certain libraries, you don't have to go to certain bookshops. We're able to access that stuff, online any time of the day. Now, when we're writing, a really strategic thing to do is when you're listing your arguments, you want to imagine that someone's going to challenge you. And I mentioned in the last episode about argument essays, one of the best ways to do that is to imagine that you're standing in front of 500 people. And you basically say to them, okay, hi 500 people, my name's Adam. I would like to tell you why paper books will never disappear. 1, their tactile nature. 2, no need for a constant power supply. Then someone says, yeah, but. So someone from the audience actually stands up and says, yeah, Adam, but. And what their but is, Adam, how about all the environmental damage? The actual production of books causes. So there is a lot of damage. Again, we don't have the statistics, but that's okay. We know that this occurs. We know that production of anything releases carbon dioxide into the atmosphere. Maybe not everything, but a lot of things that are produced on a mass scale, they push tons of carbon into the air. We can assume here that that's the same case with books, even though we don't have the exact knowledge, but we can put up a credible argument to say that this is what we believe is the case. The other side, ebooks will be the death of paper books. So again, we stand in front of 500 people, another 500 people, and we say, okay, hi everybody, my name's Adam, and I think that ebooks will be the death of paper books because of their ease of use, and they're a lot cheaper. But then someone from the audience stands up and says, yeah, Adam, but, and they say, aren't those gadgets vulnerable to like cyber attack? Files can be corrupted. And then what we would do is we would then respond to that person. So I want to put here vulnerable to cyber attack. Okay, that's our essay finished. No, I'm joking. So that's it. That's our plan done. So on the left-hand side, we're going to argue why paper books will never disappear, and we've got our arguments and the contrast. And then on the right, we've got ebooks will be the death of paper books. Why? And then we've got our listed arguments, and then also we've got our contrast sentence there. Now, as we did with the argument essay, which I'll put a link to at the end of this video in the last episode, we talked about essay sentence structures. Now, this is something that I've developed in the last few years of teaching IELTS. A number of my students said to me, Adam, I understand that I need to write an essay, but how specifically do I list the arguments that we now have in our matrix? And the main thing one of the things that came out of that discussion was, okay, how can I easily teach this? What sentence structures are available for anyone learning English and also preparing for the IELTS test? How can they better prepare and be confident when they sit down for the exam? Now, what I came up with was 5 different essay structures. There are more, but these would be the main 5 that you could use when putting together, sentences for the exam based on what we've got in the matrix. So we've got here a few key terms. We've got firstly, we've got moreover, we've got additionally, and we've got furthermore. Okay, so in terms of what's called cohesion, when the essay flows from one sentence to the next, having cohesion is really, really important to make sure that we are moving seamlessly from one sentence to the next. The next thing we need to consider with those arguments that are actually in the matrix is these points. So the if, by, when, ing verb, and noun. So let's talk about that now. So the first one here is if. So we say, for example, these are example sentences. So we say, firstly, if governments reduce the number of car parks in cities and use that space for bicycle lanes instead, people can be encouraged to leave their cars at home. So what we have here is if, blah, 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 comma, followed by a noun. So if all these words here, the blah, 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 comma, and then we have a noun here. So if, comma, noun is the structure there. The next one here is moreover. Then we have it can be argued that. So this is as I mentioned last video, this group of words can be placed in these sentences before these keywords, like before the if, before the by, before the when, and we can choose when we want to do that. But the key word here is when. Okay, so moreover, it can be argued that when more and more people move to big cities, unemployment can increase. So again, we've got the when, blah, 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 comma, noun. So that's the focus there. So we've got if, when, comma, comma, noun, noun. We've also got the by. So by plus ing verb. So firstly, by scheduling more public transport options for commuters, again, we've got there, it can be argued that. And then we've got our noun here, which is people. So firstly, by scheduling more public transport options for commuters, it can be argued that more people will take buses, trains, and trams. So what we've got here really in summary is if, by, when, comma, 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 noun, noun, noun. That's the structure. We then have two more options here. We've got the starting with the ing verb, and then we've also got starting with the noun. In both of these cases where you have an ing verb and a noun, you follow it up with what's called a modal verb, and the modal verb is the can. And the can is here, and the can is here. So additionally, educating children about the risks associated with the use of the internet can help them to understand the dangers that exist online. The other one we've got is, furthermore, the introduction of tolls on private vehicles can be a strong disincentive to drive because people will be forced to pay even more money. So what we've got here is if, by, when, comma, 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 noun, noun, noun. We've then got ing verb, noun, can. We're going to use these structures today to ensure that we can write the essay in a really strong manner. So for me, these would ultimately be, these are the things we really need to focus on. If we know this, and if we're confident with these structures, we can write basically any IELTS essay question that is out there. So just again, once we know these structures, we will be very, very prepared to attack any IELTS question that is proposed to us. Okay, let's get back into the main essay. Here we are. Okay, so first question, as I did last episode, I'm not going to write every single word. I'm just going to copy and paste across because I've pre-written this. The most important thing really here is to ensure that you guys are confident with the overall structure. So here's the first sentence. Before I talk about the first sentence, let's talk about strategy. So sentence one, again, just before I start, this is the Adam way to write an essay. Again, mentioned in the last episode, there are a lot of good IELTS teachers out there. I've been teaching the course for 6 to 7 years, and this is a summary of essentially everything I've developed in that time period. It has produced results and continues to produce results with my students. If you can follow this structure, you will have a very good chance of scoring the highest that your level can potentially score. So looking at this, sentence one is a helicopter overview. So rather than going straight into I agree or disagree, let's just talk about books in general, okay? Because the question is, some people think that ebooks will be the death of paper books, while others think that paper books will never disappear. So let's talk about just books in general. So for centuries, as in for hundreds of years, for centuries, traditional books have been the predominant medium, as in the predominant thing that has been used to both transfer knowledge to next generations and tell stories. Now, when we're writing sentences, the word for, whenever we start a sentence with the word for, we generally would use a present perfect structure after that. Present perfect is things like have been, have done, have agreed, that type of language. So again, for centuries, for hundreds of years, traditional books, as in paper books, traditional books, have been the predominant way or the predominant medium used to both transfer knowledge to next generations and tell stories. Because when we think about books, it's not just about academic books, it's not just about storybooks. We really should mention both. We really should talk about why books have been so important over not only hundreds of years, but potentially thousands. We could say here for thousands of years if we wanted to, but again, we're just going to focus on centuries here. That's our helicopter overview. The other thing to consider and to remember is that each sentence should be approximately 15 to 25 words. So as you go through this, you'll find that that's the case. Some of these sentences might be a little bit longer, but you'll generally find that they are of that length. Okay, sentence 2. What we want to do now is we want to make sure that there is a nice flow between the first sentence and the second sentence. So let's just do this now. Sentence 2. We've got here, owing to this, also, owing to this is owing to the introduction of e-readers. So we've talked about traditional books being the predominant medium that has been used to transfer knowledge and tell stories. And then we say, and then we sort of flow into the next point being, well, owing to the introduction of e-readers, there is now much debate around whether or not the traditional book industry will ultimately survive. So we basically say, they've been important for hundreds of years because of this, but now, owing to the introduction of e-readers, there's now a question around whether or not the actual whole book industry will survive into the future. A couple of key things here. So I like to start my sentence 2 with owing to, because what we're basically saying is, okay, we've sort of made our first statement, then we say, well, owing to X, in this case, owing to e-readers, there is now much debate. There is a lot of debating between different parties, yes and no. There's now much debate around whether or not this industry will survive into the future. What we need to do is the author position here. It's really what we're probably going to do here is I want to change this to author position, or we can say sides of the argument. Argument sides is probably better. So let's just change that here. Cool. So argument size, what we're going to do here is we're basically going to say to the reader, the listener, this is what, these are the options that are in front of us. Some people think this, well, some people think this, and then a reason statement underneath that. So let's just copy the next one down. Okay, we're not going to give a position here. So with discussion essays, we don't give a position until the end. So that's why it's sort of a little bit different to argument essays. So argument essays, we give our position at the beginning. Discussion essays, we give our position at the end. Okay, so argument sides. The argument that paperback and hardback books will soon be no more is both supported and refuted by many. Let me just point out something here. You can, with any sentence 3 with argument essay writing, it's almost like putting 2 caps on the end of each of the sentence. We can say the argument that blah 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 is both supported and refuted by many. Those are the 2 caps that go on either end. The part that needs to be the part that needs to stand alone in the middle is this part here. This group of words needs to be what's called an independent clause. It needs to be able to survive without the help of those words around it. So here we've got paperback and hardback books will soon be no more. And that works. On its own, that works. It's like comparing 2 cities or 2 countries, or here we're just taking a position. So paperback and hardback books will soon be no more. That's really a position of they will be no more. But what we're saying here is the argument that paperback and hardback books will soon be no more is both supported and refuted by many. Cool. And then we're going to give our reasons statement here. And our reasons statement is a very, very short one. And we're going to say both arguments will be analyzed here. Cool. And that's it. Done. That's the first paragraph. So let's read it again just quickly. For centuries, traditional books have been the predominant medium used to both transfer knowledge to next generations and tell stories. Owing to the introduction of e-readers, there is now much debate around whether or not the traditional book industry will ultimately survive. The argument that paperback and hardback books will soon be no more is both supported and refuted by many. Both arguments will be analysed here. Nice intro, clean. We've introduced the topic without really responding to any pieces yet. And that's cool. So we're now going to go to the next section. Okay, the next section is the first supporting argument. This is for the side of books this will be for the side that traditional books will survive. Let's do that now. So firstly, let's go here. Okay, here's our first sentence. We are live, guys. Hope you're enjoying it. So firstly, it can be argued that traditional books will continue to be sold because owners love the tactile nature of them. Now, you might recall we had the word tactile. I'm just going to go up for a moment so you can see this. Let's go up. All right, so this will be the document, guys, I'll give you at the end of the lesson. So you can see here the tactile nature. So this first paragraph is going to be around here, this sort of first supporting paragraph. Then we have a second supporting paragraph, but it'll be for the other side. So this paragraph we're going to write now is this side, then the third paragraph will be the other side. All right, let's go back and look at this one. So firstly, it can be argued that traditional books will continue to be sold because owners love the tactile nature of them. We've got passive grammar here, and this is quite useful to show the examiner that we know how to do passive. So passive grammar versus active grammar, you know, a typical situation would be the policeman arrested the criminal. That's an active sentence. Or passive would be the criminal was arrested. And passive grammar is really good to show the examiner because it indicates to them, or it shows them that we know, we actually are aware of that grammar and we know how to use it. So I've got a little piece of passive here, which I thought would be useful. So firstly, it can be argued that traditional books will continue to be sold because owners love the tactile nature of them. Cool. We're now going to go to the second sentence, being it's going to be adding to this paragraph. So we'll have a moreover focus. So moreover, it's almost like additionally, moreover, books can be taken anywhere and read anytime with no need for constant power supply. So the with here is a nice little connector, because what it sort of illustrates is we've got a main idea, which is books can be taken anywhere and read anytime. And this comma with is like a sub-level of detail underneath that. It further describes that first point. So moreover, books can be taken anywhere and read anytime with no need for a constant power supply. There we go. So that's our second sentence, and you'll notice that each sentence is a minimum of 15 words. Minimum 15, maximum 25. Okay, guys. Our third and last sentence for this paragraph is a contrast. Remember the contrast where we said, yeah, but? That's going to be right here. Okay, so here's the sentence. Despite the fact that, so this is the structure, despite the fact that the production of books can cause massive environmental damage, it remains a fact that they can also bring much joy through the physical turning of their pages and giving them as gifts to loved ones. Cool. Let's pause here and go back and look at the grammar for a moment. And what I want to do now is compare these 5 sentence structures that we talked about before to what we're doing now. So firstly, it can be argued that traditional books, okay? Traditional books is the noun. Nouns are followed by modal verbs. We've got here, it can be argued that traditional books will continue to be sold because owners love the tactile nature of them. Now, what's interesting here is before I mentioned that after nouns, we use the modal verb can. However, in essays, if we use the words it can be argued that, we can use the word will after it. Will is quite a strong word, and we don't necessarily want to use that all the time. But if we say it can be argued that this will continue, the mere fact that we say it can be argued is enough to soften the will to almost make it like can. So firstly, it can be argued that traditional books will. That's good. So we've got traditional books, which is the noun form, and then we've got the modal verb after that. Firstly, it can be argued that traditional books will continue to be sold because owners love the tactile nature of them. We've then got the moreover. We've then got another noun. Books can. Remember, after nouns, we use can. I mentioned in the last episode, I often use nouns when I'm writing analytically because it's a very succinct way to get to the point quickly. Rather than using any of the other forms, I find that the noun form after the comma, in the case of books and traditional books, is really effective. Now, the same grammar will be identified or used here. So we've got, despite the fact that, again, the production of books, we've got the production. Despite the fact that the production of books can, so again, noun plus modal, despite the fact that the production of books can cause massive environmental damage, it remains a fact that they. Now, they is representative of books, which is representative of the noun. So they, again, they can also bring much joy through the physical turning of their pages and giving them as gifts to loved ones. So you might be thinking, yeah, Adam, you're using a lot of can and nouns. It's okay, because we're using a lot of good grammar here. We're using a lot of vocabulary, and we're not just saying something can, something can. You can sort of see we've got other very advanced structures here, like comma with. We've got conjunctions. We've got our and. We've got the production of books. So we've got our noun phrase there. So there's actually lots of really interesting grammar going on here. And if we read it, as a flow, it really does work quite well. So I'm really happy with this at the moment. Okay, that's our second paragraph. We're now going to go to I'm actually just going to change this second supporting paragraph to a second, let's just say second paragraph, and I'm going to put in here opposing view. So this is when we are changing direction. We're now going to be talking about the other side of the argument, which is why we believe e-readers could be the death of paper books. So let's do that now. So we're changing direction here. We're saying, on the other hand, digital book titles can not only be easy to find, but also download and store, which is ideal for the modern day technophile. Now, file means a love of something. Techno or technology. So a technophile is a person that loves technology. Okay. Modern day is somebody from 2021 right now when we're doing this video. The other thing that's interesting here is you'll notice that we've got two words. We've got modern and we've got day. And these two words are hyphenated because we've got two words that are actually making up one adjective. So if you have a technophile, it's a modern day technophile. These two words are hyphenated because we've got two words forming one adjective. So on the other hand, which is the other side of the argument, on the other hand, digital book titles, again, we've got our noun, digital book titles can. Then we've got what's called a negative inversion. Negative inversion is not only, but also very effective grammar in sort of listing two positives or two negatives. So on the other hand, digital book titles can not only be easy to find, first positive, but also download and store. So that's sort of the second and third positives. Then we say comma which. Now this is a non-defining relative clause, and the comma which allows us to write extra information which allows us to extend our idea. So on the other hand, digital book titles can not only be easy to find, but also download and store, which is ideal for the modern day lover of technology or technophile. All right. Then we've got our fourth supporting argument, which I'm going to write right now. We're going to write furthermore here. Okay, furthermore, they can be considerably cheaper than traditional books, allowing consumers globally to access titles previously out of their reach. Again, we've got our noun plus can, so they can, as in the books, book titles. So furthermore, book titles, or they, can be considerably cheaper. So that's a good collocation. Collocations are words that live well together. We've got an adverb acting as an adjective, so considerably cheaper. Furthermore, they can be considerably cheaper than traditional books, comma, allowing. Now this is a good little structure here. It's like saying which allows, comma, allowing consumers globally to access titles previously out of their reach. If something's out of your reach, you can't access it either through cost or because of geographical location. Okay, so we've got our couple of reasons there why we believe that digital book titles or e-readers will be the death of paper books, because titles can not only be easy to find and download and store, but they're also considerably cheaper. And we mapped all that at the start of this essay. I say contrast and rebuttal. Let's do our last little sentence here, and this one here is focusing on what we talked about before. So we've got here, despite the fact that physical e-readers and the digital files on them can be vulnerable to cyber attacks, it can be equally argued that the platforms servicing gadget owners are well managed and help guard against such concerns. Maybe we can delete the well managed and just say it can be equally argued that the platforms servicing gadget owners, I'd maybe just delete that and say help So let's just read it. So despite the fact that physical e-readers and the digital files on them can be vulnerable to cyber attacks, it can be equally argued that the platform's servicing gadget owners help guard against such concerns. So let's look back at our grammar analysis for this. So we've got, on the other hand, digital book titles, which is the noun plus can. Then we've got furthermore, we've also got the noun plus the can. We've also got here, despite the fact that physical e-readers and digital files, so we've got our noun plus can. Because can, when we think about can mean sometimes. So that's why we've got here, furthermore, they can be considerably cheaper. Not that they are considerably cheaper, but they can be cheaper. So can is, I mentioned in the last episode as well, can is a really important word for analytical essay writing. It allows us to show the examiner that we don't necessarily know all the facts, and we're also not going to take the position that we do know all the facts. We're simply taking a position that, you know, this is sometimes the case, and that's actually that's quite good writing. So despite the fact that physical e-readers and the digital files on them can be vulnerable to cyber attacks, it can be equally argued that the platform servicing gadget owners help guard against such concerns. Cool. So that's a pretty strong essay, guys. Right now, we're actually not going to restate. We're actually going to provide. So the reason I left the titles here like they were is I want to show you the difference between an argument essay and a discussion essay. So the titles that were here before were for argument, but I've sort of left them there because I wanted to show you the difference between argument and discussion. So you're providing a position now for the first time. In the argument essay, we would normally restate our position here, but we're not going to do that. We're going to provide our position for the first time. Okay, let's do that now. So the sentence here, let me just take that up a little bit, is in consideration of those points outlined above. So, you know, taking into consideration what we've just read, I have come to the conclusions. This is the first time we're going to give your position in the essay. In consideration of those points outlined above, I've come to the conclusion that although e-readers provide their owners with significant benefits, the traditional books industry will remain, or we'll say that the traditional book industry, the traditional book industry will remain. So we're saying, although that there are advantages, and we acknowledge those advantages, the traditional book industry will remain because of, again, the points that we've referred to. We're now going to give a forward forecast for any, for the future, basically telling the reader this is what we feel for the future. So in the years to come, it's highly likely that e-reader technology will continue to improve and will provide their owners with an experience far superior to what we have or to what we see today. In the years to come means in the following years, in the years beyond now. In the years to come, it's highly likely that e-reader tech will continue to improve and will provide their owners with an experience far superior to what we see today. Cool. All right, so that's the end of the essay. We're finished. As just to reiterate, we spend 40 minutes on this essay. Well, we're given 1 hour in the IELTS exam to write 2 pieces of writing. We are going to spend approximately 40 minutes on this and 20 minutes on the task 1 exercise. And with the essay, we want to write at least 250 words. 250 words is not the aim. We don't want to hit 250 and stop or go under. We want to go past 250. We want to hit 260, 270. I always try to hit 280. 280 is a safe zone where we never have to worry about the word count, because if you write too little, you may be impacted, that your score may be impacted. So what I've done here, guys, is I've written the essay as finished, and you can see the finished essay here, the nice flow. So, we've got the for centuries, owing to this, or owing to the introduction of e-readers, the argument that, then both arguments will be analyzed. Then we've got our firstly, okay, we've got our moreover, we've got our despite the fact that, and then it remains a fact that. So it's sort of some good language there. Then we've got on the other hand, because this is a discussion essay, on the other hand. Then we've got furthermore. Then we've got our despite the fact that. And then we've got it can be equally argued that. So good language here. And then we're going to finish off our essay with, in consideration of what we have outlined above, I've come to this position. And then we say in the years to come, it's highly likely that X, Y, Z will occur. Now, in terms of word count, the normal word count I try to hit is 70, 75, 75, 60. Here we've got 67, 77, 83, 59. We've hit 286. 286 for me is a pretty good length. You know, you don't want to write over 300. That's just too many words, but you know, you don't want to write under 250. So 286 for me is a great length. Now, in terms of an indicative IELTS band score, this is indicative. Based on the published examiner matrix, you could argue that this has a task response of 9 because we have directly answered the question as to whether the book industry will survive or whether it will be killed by e-readers. Coherence and cohesion, we've talked a lot about that in this episode, about moving from one to the next. G'day, Christian. Good to see you online, mate. It's a good question. So Christian's just asked, is there any penalization if we use despite the fact twice? It's a good question, mate. Let me just go back and look at this. So if it is a good point. So Christian just identified this and this. What we can do, Christian, or based on your feedback, and I tend to agree, we could just replace that with although. So you've got at the second paragraph, you've got despite the fact that production of books can cause massive environmental damage, it remains a fact. The next one we've got, although physical readers and the digital files on them can be vulnerable, it can be equally argued. So what we've got now is despite the fact that, it remains a fact that, and then you've got although followed by it can be equally argued that. So Christian, good question, mate. I think that it's probably something that I didn't pick up when I was writing this, and in retrospect, yes, we want to make sure that there's a balance between the types of words we're using. In future episodes of the channel, I'm going to also start to deliberately move away from the noun plus can, even though I think it's a really strong structure. I would like to give you some more examples in the future where we have, you know, some other options there. When we're using by plus ing, or we're using when, that type of thing. So as I mentioned before, just with an indicative band score, again, you can argue that the task response is approximately 9 because of how well we've answered the question. The coherence and cohesion has flowed very well. We can clearly understand the essay and it does flow from one to the next. Lexical resource is your choice of vocabulary, and again, we've got some great vocab here that we have chosen. And in grammar range and accuracy, there are no grammar mistakes here, and it's been very accurate. So you can argue, guys, that this would be given a band score of 9 based on the published IELTS examiner band descriptors. Cool. All right. So there we have it. That's our class for today. I'm going to ensure that essay is available to you all at the end of this. So this is live. This is going out live. So I will ensure that Christian, with your feedback, that the word count is changed to reflect that. And thanks, mate, for giving that feedback. That's great. So guys, we go live every episode. These are not pre-recorded. So if you'd like to jump online in the future and say good day, please do so. It's always cool to see you guys online and saying hello. And yeah, in terms of the future, if you'd like to keep in touch with us at BandscoreCast, feel free to hit us up on Twitter, on Instagram, or on Facebook. And obviously we've got our YouTube channel to which these live videos are posted. So these are live, but they are posted unedited, basically, to the YouTube channel. So I really wanted to do classes like this that were live, so you really feel like you are in that class environment without things being edited in the background. I want you to feel like this is being done, and you can therefore do it. Like you're watching me do it, you can do it as well, and you can score those big scores when you come to doing your IELTS test. Just remember, practice makes perfect. We need to practice. We can't just come to any class, online or physical classes, and write once a week and expect our writing to increase. It's not possible. So we need to push. We need to work hard. We need to study hard. So I'm going to upload this as soon as possible to online. And then our next class, which will be in a few days' time, will be focusing on twin question essay, which is the other type of essay that we'll be talking about. So one thing we'll talk about in that episode is that many teachers around the world define essay structures in many different formats. I've distilled it down to 3 different formats, 3 different essay structures that you can take into the test and perform well with. So I hope this has been of great value to you guys. Thanks again for jumping in, and looking forward to seeing you in the next episode. Ciao. See you later.